Hey, Mark.
James, how are you?
I'm doing great.
It's week 10 or
We
something.
well, that was the thing. Before we even started, we were all on the sort of the backstage green room, whatever you want to call it, for Zoom, and had about a minute long conversation about what week we were up to on this, and everybody had calendars out trying to count it off. But I think we did settle on week 10.
What
Yes.
is a week anyway? I mean,
What is
it's
anything?
all just kind of time, right?
And it's a holiday weekend too. Somebody told me, so that's coming up. So happy Memorial Day to everyone on Monday. How are you? You got a new backdrop behind you. You're in your condo, I see.
Yeah. I'm enjoying Pittsburgh on a rainy, sunny, schizophrenic weather day.
Yeah, that's what we have. Speaking of days, I wanted to give a little shout out. I don't know if people can see here, but I'm wearing this T-shirt. This is my a T-shirt from a band called the Mina Birds. A dear friend of mine who I've known for 20 plus years, Laura Burren. This is her current band, terrific group. And I'm wearing this because, and I don't know if you knew this, but WYEP, our good neighbors just down from City Theater on the South Side, today apparently is wear your favorite band T-shirt to work day. So I took the cue for that and I put it on and walked up the 12 steps to the office, which is my attic. And I wanted to give a little shout out to both Laura, belated birthday to her, but also to the Mina Birds, but mostly to our good neighbors, WYEP and WESA, are oftentimes partners, but certainly our friends that we run into all over the South Side. So shout out to that. Please do dig out your favorite T-shirt and tag WYEP on all the social media channels. But how are you doing, Mark? What's going on? What's been happening over the last week or so?
Like usual at City Theater, everyone has been very, very busy in spite of the shutdown. We are getting a lot of work done. We had recently our show must go online partnership with City of Asylum. We did a reading of Bat Kitty by Amy Stats, directed by Marty Lyons, and we had over 150 people attend and watch our new play reading, and that was about the same attendance and the first time around. We're just thrilled with that, and there's so much good news. The board has been involved in trying to help us navigate through this. Our board member, Judy Chatayan, has issued a $5,000 matching challenge, and people are contributing. People are pitching in. People are getting involved, and it's inspiring to see the community come together around our shared mission and trying to get the art out there in this new way, as long as we have these restrictions in place.
Yeah, I've loved watching the readings, and my hat goes off to everybody and all the artists involved on that. But I particularly have enjoyed the chat function during that experience and
Yeah.
allowing the audience to engage with each other. And this last one on Wednesday, I thought it was great that somebody asked the question, "Where is everybody?" And we had people dotted all across the United States that was tuning in, from New York to Oakland, California, and elsewhere. And I just love that part of all of this experience. I think it's really great to give eyeballs from a farther distance away than what we could fit, frankly, in the Hamburg studio.
Yeah, it's a real upside because now we're global all of a sudden, and
Yeah.
clearly the majority of our audience is based in Allegheny County or in this region. But it's true. People can watch it from anywhere in the world, and people are watching it from anywhere in the world. So it's kind of an astonishing thing. And hopefully we can keep that up as we move forward into the next chapter, whatever that may be. We also had a reading of In Their Own Voices, which was shared readings by Peter Zaragoza, Mashal, and Judy Miskin. And that we appreciate the work of the Dramatists Guild in helping artists at this time to continue to do their work. And so we're happy to be able to share that kind of work with our audiences as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And please, we do keep all of that in one sort of archive page on our website. I'm sure Nikki and Claire will make sure that's shared on the Facebook chat. But do check it out. It's getting updated twice a week, if not more. And it really is quite impressive. I think we're up over 25 unique pieces of content that we've created since mid-March, when all this began, of course. Speaking of the timeline of the COVID-19 crisis, as we know, we here in Allegheny County, we moved into the so-called yellow phase of the governor's reopening strategy. And I'm sure there'll be more announcements about the state later today. He normally makes those announcements on Fridays in the afternoon. I think sometimes we actually compete with the governor's press conference with this. But Marc, what does that mean for us so far with the yellow phase and what's going on with City Theater and the slow and gradual and thoughtful, I'd say, reopening of Pennsylvania?
Well, of course, until last Monday, I guess, or Friday last week, we were closed. The building was closed. No one was going into the building, and now we can cautiously and safely come back into our workspace. There's a ton of work that needs to be done. We have 2 sets that were built and on our stages that need to be struck, and the place needs to be cleaned up and readied for a reopening eventually. So we're using this opportunity now that we're in the yellow stage to do that. We've developed safety protocols for everyone working. We've bought protective gear. We're going to be talking to our resident costume shop manager, Madison Hack, in a little while, who has been making masks furiously for friends and family and coworkers and safe people on the front lines as well. And I'm curious the number of masks that she's actually made since this thing started 10 weeks ago, but it's impressive. So we're getting things done. We're starting to prepare. We're not sure what our timeline is, but we have some ideas, we have some plans, and it's actually exciting to be dreaming of how to respond to the situation right now. And there are a lot of people being very creative about it.
Yeah, we were talking earlier, Marc, offline, and because we don't have all of our conversations in front of the public via Zoom, we do actually talk sometimes on our own. But you were saying that you were on just a recent call with some of your longtime friends in the field and artistic directors from all over the country, and really inspired by that. You sort of, I think, is how you put it just now. But it's really good to hear what others are doing and how artists are thinking in this moment.
Some people are hunkering down and not doing anything and just deciding that live theater is live theater and will start again when we can have people together in a public space. And some people are trying to find ways to use the online medium to create an experience for live performance. And there's some really interesting things that people are doing with that. I've heard of outdoor theater ideas. I've heard of kind of pageant wagons like in the medieval days, where theater would roll through the streets. I've heard of podcast theater where you put on headphones or you put on a speaker on your car and and there's an actor narrating a live experience, which you experience, in a neighborhood or in a city or in a public space outdoors. And we ourselves, we have some tricks up our sleeves and things that we're trying to work on, and we're excited about those potentials. But ultimately, we just want to gather again in a public space and make art, tell our stories to our audiences in real time. We will get there, but in the meantime, there are a lot of people being very creative.
Yeah, I think sort of broadening the definition of the public space is something that we've all had to lean into a little bit, and how it is we engage and have these conversations. Obviously, as each state has a different sort of timeline, that impacts it. Some theaters are finding ways to even try in a limited way to produce this summer. Barrington Stage is one that comes to mind. I think they're just doing solo shows with heavily socially distanced audience and environments. In Europe, in Italy, it's actually been, I think, somewhat controversial. Some of the theaters are opening up there as soon as next month. There was an amazing, I don't know if you saw it, Marc, but there was an amazing article in the New York Times yesterday about a concert venue in Germany, which I think was an over 1,000-seat venue that had socially distanced it out to about 200 people. And there's a photo, I think it's going to get shared in the chat, from that, which is it's just different. I don't want to give it sort of an editorial. It's something to really kind of take in, and kind of stunning in that regard. So, I think we're all trying to figure out what this looks like, and we don't yet know the timing. I mean, I think this is something you and I talk a lot about, is that all we can do is plan, and we can sort of figure things out the best we can in a vacuum, but no one knows yet. We don't know the course of all this, but we have to be ready for when we do know. And I think that's really been part of that. I did want to mention a couple of things that we've been doing internally, and One is that we're going to start over the next few weeks really engaging with different stakeholders, sort of in a focus group way. We created a task force to really look at data and surveying. And what we came up with was we need to talk to all the sort of vested stakeholders, from our donors, our subscribers, our single ticket buyers, those patrons that use our various accessibility services, the artists involved, of course, our community businesses. One of the things, that obviously there's impact here is the businesses on the South Side that rely on our audiences that come out. I mean, that's one of the bigger picture parts of this, and is the economic impact of the arts and culture sector is huge. And I want to sort of give an opportunity to encourage folks out there, if you're used to coming to the city theater on the South Side and eating at one of our local restaurants, look them up, see if they're serving, and you can maybe go get some takeout food from them and give them some business. I believe it's going into effect very soon, but the governor and the legislature worked out a deal that now I think they're allowing cocktails to go here in Pennsylvania. So you can even maybe go get a drink along Carson Street, which it's known for. And then just one other shout out I wanted to do, because I'm particularly proud of our mayor, Bill Peduto. And he crafted a letter that went out earlier this week. It's available online, and he wrote to the leaders of both the House and the Senate, really advocating for Congress to pay attention to the arts and culture sector in the next wave of sort of the rebuilding legislation around this crisis. So I encourage people to look at that letter up, give it a read, and if you can, to sort of reach out and really remind our elected officials how critical the arts are to our economy. We're a huge industry beyond just being something that really feeds the soul. We're also an economic driver, and I really would encourage people to look that up. And I just want to thank the mayor for his leadership on that front. Marc, anything else that we kind of wanted to touch on today before we bring on one of our special guests?
Yeah, I just, as you were talking about the mayor's leadership, I was also thinking of our board's leadership and the community that has grown around City Theater over the 45 years of our existence, and how important it is to have the leadership of our board president and other board members who are stepping forward to make this possible. Also, James, your own leadership, the way that you've brought other members of the arts community together, the task force of performing arts organizations that's happened. I thought maybe you might want to speak to that, because it's interesting the way that the community is coming together to face this challenge together, recognizing their individual entities, but there's strength in the collective action.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, there was I think WESA had a story about a group of museums, I think up to 35 museums and galleries here in the region, that are all starting to convene and talk about issues that they are facing as sort of a discipline. And this was born out of an idea that of a few organizations a few weeks ago, and GPAC, the Greater Pittsburgh Arts Council, is sort of serving as the liaison. And so yesterday, a group of about 25 different leaders of performing arts venues here in the Allegheny County and in the Greater Pittsburgh region met for the first time. And we met for a terrific 2-hour meeting where we got into breakout sessions. We talked about all of the things that we're facing as we start to imagine reopening and what that's going to look like, from safety and health, advocacy, to both the media and funders and elected officials. How can we come together and share and partner around programming? It was just a chance for us all to get together and really start to realize that we're in this together, and the way we're going to get through this is together. I was so heartened and grateful to be able to sort of pull that group together yesterday, and I look forward. We're going to meet probably every 2 weeks and really start to strategize about what the future looks like and how we can all be on the same page moving forward, for the health of our artists and for the health of our patrons, and of course for the health of our organizations, and what that looks like. So there's a lot going on behind the scenes, and I think you're going to start to hear more about it as we all start to really think about what does the next phase of this look like, and we're all so eager to get back to work. Absolutely. So thank you for mentioning that, and I'm so thrilled for all of our colleagues participating in that.
Speaking of getting back to work, we want to bring on one of the most important people at City Theater, which is Madison Hack. And Madison, maybe you can turn your camera on and join us here. Hi.
Hi.
How you doing?
Oh, good.
Yeah, you're at the costume shop right now at City Theater, right?
I am.
What's
Right.
life like in the costume shop at City Theater right now?
Lonely? I'm by myself. It's been really nice to get back to a routine. But at the same time, I just miss seeing everyone in person. When we pass each other, the few people who are here, we're masked up, and it's like, can you tell I'm smiling at you? But it's been nice to be back and get back to the groove of things. It's a little different, but it could be worse. So I'm
Yeah.
just happy to be here.
That loneliness is sort of intentional, of course, too. I know that you've got
Yeah.
yourself very strict rules that you've reminded all of your colleagues about in terms of
Yes, my
how
door
to
is
approach
shut.
the costume shop. Yes.
Yes, my door is shut. There's a note on it that says knock or yell, and I'll come with my mask because I can't work in here masked up. So it is what it is.
I mentioned that you're one of the most important people at City Theater, and the reason is that actors would be naked if it wasn't for you. So I think everyone appreciates the work that you do.
I hope so. Be
Uh,
a very different show.
yeah, I mean, you're so integrally involved in everything that goes on our stage. Every single piece of clothing that goes on our stage, comes through your hands.
Mhm.
And I don't know that our audience in general, not everyone has had a chance to meet you or to know what you do. So maybe you could just describe your job and how you approach it, and then I'd like to know a little bit more about your background as well.
Sure. So, as costume shop manager, basically, I'm in charge of being whoever the designer is when they come in, just being their right hand man. I basically get their designs, and then in whatever capacity that means, I make sure that we get that design to become a reality, whether it's just shopping. It's kind of rare that we build stuff. We haven't built anything since the Revolutionists, and that was a feat. So I organize all that budget wise. Bringing people in to help me. I go shopping physically. I have a wonderful assistant named Amelia, and she is my right hand man, and runs out into the city and does returns. So it's a lot of buying and searching for stuff and hunting stuff down or pulling from the crazy stock that I have. And yeah, that's just basically it. And I'm around for tech. I'm one of the production people who's around all the time, and I make sure that it sticks to whatever the designer wants it to be.
And then you also design yourself. I
I
mean,
do.
you and I have worked together, and
Yes.
appreciate that. But that's a whole different line of your involvement, right?
Yeah, so it's sometimes like the best of both worlds because I don't have to be the right hand man to anybody else but myself. But then it comes with its challenges where, I'm not only designing it and being a part of the fittings like I normally would as the assistant, but I call the shots, which is really fun. I've had the opportunity to do a handful of shows here as well as YPF since 2016, and that's a whole beast in and of itself. They're both wonderful. I love the designers I get to like learn from. That's like the biggest blessing, and then being able to take what I learn and put it into my own work.
So, Madison, our tenures have pretty much overlapped, actually. I think that you
Yeah.
started at City Theater about the same time I did in 2015. But give us a little bit of backstory about how you got to City Theater and how your role has evolved over the last 4 or 5 years.
Sure. So, my senior year of college, it was the basic, like, I don't know what I'm going to do thing. And my sister lives here with her husband, and she raved about Pittsburgh. She's like, I hear all about the arts here. I hear about the theater. Like, look here. Maybe you'll come for the summer and live with us.
And
And
where,
so
where was college, by the way, Madison?
I went to Oklahoma State University. So I have a BA in theater, football school, small theater department, but it was the best theater department for me because I got to put my hand in everything, whether it was scenic painting. I designed my first show my freshman year, fully on my own. My best friend as the director, and it was great. It was hard. It was Columbinus, which is the most heart-wrenching story, but it really that was a trajectory for me. And then, so yeah, my senior year, she was like, come check these theaters out. And, I did some Googling, and I think she sent me the website for City Theater, and I was like, oh, cool, but they don't really have anything in the summer for me, but there was an education internship. And I was like, hey, it's something. And so I actually sent my resume and cover letter to Kristen Link, our former education director. And I was like, hey, you know, I want to come and I'm coming for spring break. I'd love to tour or interview or whatever. And she also was kind of confused and was like, your resume doesn't really reflect what you're coming for. And I said, I just want to be involved in any capacity. And, you know, little did she know, I was like, I just want to, you know, get away and have something when I graduate. And so I did. I came here and I interviewed. She actually brought in the current at the time costume shop manager, Ange Vesco, and then Tony Ferreri was in the interview because she was like, I think they need to be here based on what I see. And then I actually went to a matinee of Tribes, and it was beautiful, and I cried the whole time. During intermission, I like stood outside and I was like, I have to work here. I don't know what to do. I called my sister and I said, I hope this works out. And then post show, Kristen walked me out and she just said, hey, instead of an internship, do you want a job instead? And I was like, sure. Yeah. And then called my sister and I was like, I might be moving here. And so flash forward to the fall of 2014, and I moved here and I was the shop assistant for 3 seasons. And then in 2017, I got to be the manager. So I run the joint now, and it was a crazy, wild ride of luck, pure luck, I think.
You run it so well too.
Thank you.
I'm going to embarrass you, Madison. One of the things I admire about you is, and I've noticed this, I've said this to you, but you're the kind of person who, if you see something that needs to be done someplace in the room or the building, you just do it. You just go do it. You don't wait for somebody to, you know, tell you or ask you. You just get up and you go and do it. And you have initiative and you have creativity, and it's a great quality, the kind of leadership that you bring to the position and to the organization. And we're grateful. And speaking of that, talk a little bit about the mask building enterprise that you've undertaken and how that's gone.
I have 145 on step 10. I think there's about 14 steps. I tried to count this morning. These will be, after I'm done with these, I'll probably have made almost 300. Wow. It started with just me, you know, when we all had to go home. I just was like, I have to do something, and I couldn't figure out what to do. I'm a routine-oriented person. So I started making them out of my guest room in our home, and I just kind of kept going. And then when we were asked, when I got the call saying, hey, we're going to come back, you know, the buzzword essential, can you make masks? Can you make as many as you can? And so that's what I've been doing. I made about 80 of them last week in order for all the production folks who have been on campus. I baggied them up and everyone took 2 so they could alternate. And I just said, you know, I have more supplies. I'm just going to keep making them until I run out. And so there's 145 here. And I got all my information from operationfacemask.com. It's a bunch of volunteers in Pittsburgh. One of them is Ange Vesco, and she has given me the information. They have tutorials where you can make your own. You don't need a sewing machine. You don't need a serger. I was making them with the equipment I had at home, and now they're a little bit nicer now that I'm here in my shop. And so it's been a challenge, and it's been like long days of just like doing the same thing over and over again, but it makes me really happy to be able to contribute in this way and use the talent that I do have and the skills that I do have to keep everyone safe.
How long does it take you to, from beginning to end, to make a mask?
Well, I've been doing almost like an assembly line, so I'm not 100%. If I just made one, maybe like 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Yeah. But because I started these on Monday, and it's the cutting and the serging and I'm trying to make them all as nice as possible. So it's hard to say.
I meant to bring mine up. You, of course, I have one of yours, early round.
Early round.
Which I have to say, delivered, left it on my doorstep, sent me a text saying it's outside. So we kept.
I gave you a nice plaid one because I knew you'd wear it.
I meant to bring it up. It sits right by the door when I grab it whenever I can go out. So
that's good.
That's great, Madison. Thanks for doing that. Thanks for everything that you do for City Theater. And
absolutely.
I just know that
if you can, can you do a quick little spin for folks who maybe have not seen the costume shop before, just to sort of show?
I'll start over here so I don't spin around and make people vomit. But that's the fitting area with the curtains. It's where we do all of our fittings. Right there where you see the pom-poms, that's my closet / desk. This whole thing is my office, but in there I have my computer. I will now pick up my laptop and go slow. I practiced earlier with Joel. So then we have all of my stock. All of that is to be put away. When we had to leave, we were mid perk up buying. So that's all my returns. Grateful for the stores right now. They're letting people do really late returns. So yeah, when we spin around, sewing machine, serger.
You have the best window watching this.
I'm spoiled and the best view of the new production center. I can see what's going on all the time. And then we keep spinning and I have like sewing notions and buttons and all. This is all the boxed stock. And then jewelry and accessories and then fabric. And again, my closet office. And then if you go, let me know if I'm going way too fast. I'm trying to walk slowly. And then this is the hanging storage. I do a lot of ladder work in here, not by myself though. So that's stuff like dress pants, suits that can't be shoved in a box, and then some more shoes.
Wow. And
purses and all the goods. And I'll give a closer look out the window.
So as we close up, just one final question. Not that we ever have favorites, but if you were to say, what's been one of the sort of most challenging but rewarding shows you've worked on at City Theater?
Oh no. Probably The Absolute Brightness of Leonard Pelkey. I designed that. That was my first main season design, and it was a challenge for the subject matter. A one-person show is challenging. You'd think, oh, one costume, but it's something you have to stare at for 90 minutes. So you have to make sure it's right. And that was a dream team to work with. And so that was just really fulfilling and a great start in the trajectory of my design relationship here, besides YPF, which is a whole other ordeal. And it'd be an entire hour Zoom call of how to describe YPF, but
great, thank you. Yeah, well, it was such a powerful show. I missed that show. It was something. Our audiences, I still talk about that one. I think we had a question if any of the masks have a City Theater logo. We've talked about it, and it might be something in our future.
Oh, I mean, that'd be easy to do. We just gotta get some fabric made. I'm okay with that. I'll talk to Nikki. We'll get some stuff done.
And just before everyone, anybody who wants to make masks at home, do you want to repeat there sort of any resources out there, anywhere you would point folks?
Yeah, operationfacemask.com. They have YouTube tutorials. They have all the information on how to wash them properly and how to wear them properly. It's been really easy. And like I said, you don't have to have a sewing machine. And mine have a filter layer, and that's as easy as the reusable grocery bags. If you have any of those, they take donations, and it's all volunteer based. They're all doing it out of the kindness of their hearts. So it's great.
You're awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye, Madison.
Bye, thank you so much.
Great to see you.
You too.
She's the best. She really is, Marc.
Yeah, I agree.
Speaking of the best, we're going to bring on our dear colleague, our Director of Ticketing and Patron Services, Joel. So come on, say hi, Joel. And as we've gotten in the habit of this over the last few weeks, we try to end these CT Live episodes with something and things that we love. And today we're going to celebrate our patrons. And so obviously Joel is the right person to have that conversation. And Joel, I think you were going to sort of talk a little bit about an email you got this week from one of our dear patrons.
Yeah, so we get a lot of emails from our patrons about any range of topics, and I always like to point out and share the ones that really do bring a smile to your face and kind of warm your heart. It's no surprise to our City Theater family that Jim Henson is one of my personal heroes, and one of Jim's quotes that I really love is that he says, "I believe in taking a positive attitude toward the world. And my hope still is to leave the world a little bit better than when I found it," which is very much ingrained in my approach to customer service and dealing with our patrons. So that leads me to our good point of the day. You see, a few weeks ago, I'd been contacted by one of my colleagues at the Pittsburgh Cultural Trust in their ticketing office about a patron who had passed away, but her daughter wanted to take over all of her subscriptions within the district. And my colleague wasn't able to handle all of us, so she passed it on to all of the ticketing managers across Pittsburgh. So I reached out to the daughter and made necessary changes on our back end. And we spent a few weeks playing phone tag back and forth and back and forth. And finally, after a few weeks, I was able to talk to her, and we probably spent about 30 minutes on the phone. And she started telling me about all of the different shows that her and her mom went to, but not both at City Theater and across Pittsburgh, and how much those memories meant to her, ranging from being able to see the Santaland Diaries the first time we did it with Jesse Tyler Ferguson, to some of their favorite and maybe not so favorite shows, but they would still talk about seeing. Obviously, the conversation got very emotional, and I just took my time and I asked her more questions about her mom. She was so thankful that she was able to bring her mom to the production of Downstairs in January, and it was the second to last show that her mom got to see in the Pittsburgh theater before she passed away. So a few days later, I happened to go into the office and I saw the extra Downstairs posters in my cubicle, and I thought, well, what would Jim Henson do? So I grabbed one and an envelope and I mailed it out to her with a little handwritten note that says, "I thought that you would like this." Nothing more, just something simple. And so a few days later, we got this email, and it was just a beautiful email of thanks. She was so touched that we took the time to reach out to her, that we took the time to speak to her, listen to her memories about her mom, and then also that we sent this poster. But the one line that got me, and I'm going to paraphrase it, was, "In other parts of my life, I'm encountering the exact opposite of this humanity. I'm so grateful for the reminder that people exist in the world who can so willingly share their light with someone they've never met." So I thought today, since it is 143 Day, where we honor the legacy of Mr. Rogers, I would love to encourage all of our viewers out there to find a way to share their light with others. What may seem like a small gesture to you can have a huge impact on someone else.
It's beautiful.
That's amazing, Joel. Thank you.
Of course.
And
Thanks
thank
for
you.
being here.
Yeah, absolutely. We're not going to top that. So I just want to sort of say thank you all for joining us. We have more in their own voices coming up and future content, as well as an artist video from Christopher Larkin and Julia Warner, who were in the 2015 production of A Bolivian. But otherwise, happy Memorial Day to everybody. Stay safe, stay healthy, and thank you all for sticking with City Theater. We'll get on the other side of this. Take care.
See you soon. Hi, Mom.